Hello,
Everyone,
Diana.
greetings.
It's lovely to see you again.
How are you doing today, sweetie?
Very well, thank you. It's cold here.
Here it's 115 degrees Fahrenheit.
Hot. Okay,
In
okay,
fact, we have record-breaking heat this year. So
okay, okay, okay. Yeah, I think the whole planet is warming up at the moment by the sound of things.
I do believe Mother Earth is not in a good way.
Mm, mm, yeah,
So
yeah. So, I'm not sure if anyone else is going to join us.
it's
Uh,
a big topic. You said how to make money.
Yes, and it's I'm thankful to you for showing up even though it's not a popular topic because I think it's quite an important conversation we need to have.
I think that it is. I think that I'm going through an exercise where I'm trying to decide which parts I want to keep and which parts I want to do more of
Mm,
in terms of the full landscape, what's occurring in my landscape. And I think that if you want things to continue, you have to participate. You have to give back. We
I,
draw down so much from the group. We enjoy looking at the pictures. We enjoy sharing suggestions. We enjoy seeing what other people do.
mm,
And to be in that structure takes someone building the frame around it so that we can come into that space and do those things.
mm,
And
mm.
so I don't think that I will be able to squish enough time in the schedule to participate as an admin, but I'm happy to participate as a member. I'm happy to see what people are up to and see what they think because
Thank you.
I'm working on listening.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it so much. So, one of the reasons that I wanted to have this evening's talk is because, as you see, not a lot of people want to participate when it's about finding out what the guidelines are. But then after they get removed from the community, then they want to know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite a frustrating space for the admin team to work in. I end up spending a lot of time that I really don't have managing emails from people who, after they've been removed, demand to know from me why they've been removed or demand to be reinstated.
Mm-hmm.
And if they could just apply themselves to actually reading the guidelines uh, before that happens, then it's all totally avoidable.
Well, I think that what happens is we get into habits and we think that because we've never been pushed back that it's okay. Not only is it okay, it's acceptable and it's bright and beautiful and it's part of uh, part of being going through the world. And unfortunately, the world there, like Mother Earth, there are so many things we violate, and there isn't an instant reaction, and so people do more of it.
Mm,
Take
mm.
more resources. We don't care about what we throw away. We do all these things, and there isn't an instant feedback that tells you, oh no, you shouldn't do these things.
Mm, mm, mm. That's such a great insight.
When
That's
you
such a
go
great insight.
someplace and you see it ruined by other people's trash, you think, oh, they're terrible people, but you're part of the people. One of the things I've come to think of this week is that, as much as we like to consider ourselves as individuals, especially here in the United States, we do not cross the line individually. We
Mm,
cross as a group.
mm,
So, I appreciate what you guys do in the admin group in terms of keeping the space for what it was intended for. And
mm,
I don't find that you have an anti-commercial bend or an anti-anything bend. I think you have a positive bend towards what it is that you want people to be doing, which is sharing ideas on how to reuse resources, recycle, reuse, repurpose.
mm,
And often it's the idea, once we start thinking about something not as a piece of trash, but as a treasure, we then begin to put on a different hat. We think of it in a different way. My cousin and I had gone in Los Angeles down to a beach shop, and we picked up she was having fun that day. We were visiting the fabric stores and we were visiting the bead shops, and she picked up a bag of just odds and ends that the
Mm.
bead shop sold, all the leftover pieces. And so, it's a treasure for $5. And so we take it home and we start taking it apart. And there are these misformed beads.
Mm.
That obviously there because they couldn't sell them. They're so badly, like a little black plastic circle with a little rhinestone in the middle.
Mm.
I was telling her, I said, what happens is the stuff that you think that you're not going to want or need is the stuff that you end up having to marshal out, having to count how many you have so that you can do what you want to do.
Mm.
And that weekend, we started making a pot holder. She'd
Mm.
gotten at a craft fair 40 years before. It's Mr. Plucky, the chicken shape.
Okay.
And in the middle of the night, or late at night, I think she'd had a glass of wine or two. She says, Diana, she says, those misformed beads will make a chicken eye. She says, because if you ever really look at a chicken eye, it's kind of off. And, and so we were counting out the number of beads we had left to see how many we had picked up to see if we could make as many holders as we wanted. So what happens is it's just a shift in attitude. The bead didn't change.
Yes.
It was still mismanufactured, and sold in a bag, a grab bag of lots of odds and ends. But if it fits perfectly the thing that you're trying to do with it,
Yes.
it works gloriously.
Yes.
So
What a
it,
beautiful story.
it's all in the attitude.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have a great way of framing things. I love it. I love it. And interestingly enough, somebody I interviewed last week uh, piqued my curiosity with a technique for changing plastic from chip packets and things like that into beads. And I was experimenting with it last week, and I got some really great results. Um, I was quite impressed. You just cut the plastic into strips, wrap it around a steel knitting needle,
Mhm.
and then heat it gently over a candle flame. You do need to do it in a well-ventilated area because it does give off fumes that I don't think are healthy.
Mhm.
But then as the plastic shrinks, it makes these lovely beads if you can control it. My first one was a bit messy, but I can see how if you practice and you make a whole lot that look the same, they would be absolutely lovely strung onto t-shirt strips and all sorts of things.
Interesting. Interesting. I had a friend who did fabric jewelry. She'd take long, thin strips and roll them into beads.
Mm.
And then I never did see her technique, so I don't know whether she stitched them closed or glued them closed. But
Mm.
when I did my turquoise yo-yos made out
Yes,
of cool fabric, that looked that looked so much like fuzzy worms.
yes.
Um, I offered them to her because and I ended up giving them to a friend who was making hats. She uses them
Okay.
as things on a hat. So um, lots and lots of different. It's all in looking at it. You're looking at it as a resource
Mm.
as opposed to a piece of trash.
Yes.
And that fabric that material that they use to make chip bags um, is interesting because it has that one silver side. It,
Yes. Yes.
it's incredibly tough in some directions, but not in all because you can
Yes.
rip open a chip bag. But if you get, I don't know how much tensile strength it has in terms
Mm.
of snapping.
Mm.
Uh, Sister this morning was showing me a mat that she had crocheted made out of the plastic garbage bag. She does a 3 by 6 foot mat.
Mm.
This is for homeless people to get them slightly off the ground
Yes.
when they're sleeping. So
Yes.
uh, it's a matter of how you look at it. I know I was, perhaps it was you or somebody else was talking about chopping up T-shirts because they want just they want the printed portion because
Yes.
that's the good portion. That's the portion everybody likes. My friend Astrid used to make those into skirts. She'd slice them up and then use them as embedded with other fabrics
Mm.
to make skirts. And I sat her booth once for one of the fairs, And I watched as people were just, it was like bees to honey. People were her combination of colors and
Yes.
style. But she had a very, very unique, funky 70s kind of a feel. In fact, I wanted to do a garment bag for her,
Mm.
part of her memory. And I came up with a theme of destination. So I was going to put different colored shoes, and different kinds of shoes on the bottom, and then different destinations around the world because she was a world traveler, and
Okay.
she was someone who was always on the go. She was someone who was always on her way to somewhere, on her way back from somewhere. So I thought it would be a great memory for her. Now I don't know who gets the garment bag. It's still not revealed to me, but I came up with the idea and the design, and I sketched it out, and I put it away because at some point I'll print the linen. I'll make
Mm.
it out of linen that I want to do some hand stamps on, and somebody will come along and tell me they need a garment bag.
Mm. It sounds like a wonderful project.
It is. It is.
Now, I'd like to stay on topic. I'm
Sure.
enjoying the conversation a great deal, but I'd also like to stay on topic, just for the sake of letting people know about the community guidelines. Are there any of the community guidelines that you've got any questions about?
No, I did have, I think, a posting that I had put that got removed because I mentioned the label.
Ah, okay. Okay. So let me explain labels because they come up quite often.
Yeah.
And so, what I should explain to everybody who's watching is that when I first started the community, I started it with no rules
Mhm.
because I'd been kicked out of another group that had lots of rules. And I was like, I'm going to create my own space where there are no rules and people can just manage their own behavior. And when we hit 20,000 members, I realized how unrealistic that was going to be, that I would really, I was going to have to create guidelines if it wasn't going to melt down in absolute chaos.
Mhm.
And in the beginning, when we had posts with labels on, we'd welcome them
Yeah.
for various reasons. But over the years, labels have caused us a great deal of trouble behind the scenes in the admin team. So I'll never forget the first time I had trouble with a label. I decided I've got a meme that's got a picture of a clothing label that's got all the different washing instructions on, and then underneath it it says, or else give it to mom, she knows what to do with it. And my intention with the posting was to create some humor in the group on that day. And I had no idea the storm that it would unleash. I was accused of all sorts of things. It was anti-woman. It was disrespectful of mom, and I'd intended it actually as being respectful to my mother because my mother always knew what to do with stuff. And I realized in that moment that people have very, very different perceptions, and also our group doesn't being like being labeled as anything. It became very clear. And that was my first taste of how troublesome labels were going to become for us. Then later along the way, a lot of people have posted images of things where they've used, for example, say a pair of Levi's denims to make a bag. And then they display that label in a very obvious place that everybody can
Mhm.
see it. So when we started doing our research as an admin team, and please, anybody watching, you must understand that when our admin team creates a guideline, we talk about it at length
Mhm.
and we audit it again and again and again before everybody agrees on that guideline. So it's not like I just suck an idea out of the air and make it a guideline. We as a group from around the world, we come at it from all angles and we take it apart and we reconstruct it and we do it again and again and again before it becomes a part of the system. And what I eventually sort of realized from all of my research is that You must remember that a brand label particularly is actually created by the creator of that brand to protect their IP. It is there to protect their intellectual property. It not only tells you that this was made by this person, but it also is intended to protect that. So if it's a particular cut of denims or something, it's there to protect that pattern as their intellectual property. So it actually serves a legal function. So as soon as you take it and you use it on something else, that is not, it then goes into legal territory for those brands, because you're using their label in a way that they did not intend for you to use it. And there can be very real legal ramifications. Those brands can come after you for using their label in a way that they did not agree to. The other side of that conversation is also that as a consumer out there, say you're making items that you are upcycling and then you're reselling them. Somebody might come along and see this garment on your table, this bag on your table, and want to buy it. The assumption is that it was made by the brand label that they see displayed there. And then you're getting revenue because now they've bought that brand label item. And again, the people who are using that label to protect their intellectual property and by default to therefore protect their income are not going to be happy that that label is being used in that way by somebody else to generate revenue without their permission.
Okay. The other thing I would point out is that typically labels are on the inside, and they're
Yes,
meant to inform the consumer that this is the person who created the thing that you're wearing.
yes, yes,
So
yes,
when I refashion something, I'm redoing some skirts right now. I'm keeping the wash instructions and making sure I reattach those because those are important to the consumer. And
yes,
and I keep the label and I reattach it. My instinct is to put another label there to say this has been reformatted by me on this date.
yes, yes,
I know the place it's going into is going into a group home. So as I was doing that earlier in the week, I was thinking that, yeah, I do need to figure out what I want to do with labeling when I touch something. I touched so many garments at Cinderella Fair. I had wanted to create a little thing that I could see that I had touched the dress. Because
yes,
interestingly enough, I can remember them.
yes,
And so if I could do something that's pretty unobtrusive inside the dress, it would let me see that I had touched it before and
yes,
remind me what I had done. So labeling, I'm interested in labeling from that perspective and having created labels, just handmade labels from some of my stuff I did in that eco show a couple of years ago. I come to appreciate and understand what the label is all about. Because there are legal requirements, and we're required to put wash and care instructions to tell fiber content. And so
So from our admin team perspective, if you are reattaching a wash care label, that's fine. But if we see anything that's been remade with a brand name label on it, and that brand name is very visible in the photographs or anything like that, then because of this whole legal thing, we remove it because we don't want to be seen to be supporting that culture. Worst case scenario, a Levi's can come and ask our admin team to remove that content because we have published it in our group, allowed the publishing of it in our group, and if they did decide to litigate, then we could be in that chain of people that they come after. So it's actually protecting our admin team from that kind of thing that we're doing this, because I have also read and in fact, I was informed by somebody who consulted a lawyer on this, that if we support the publishing of any of that kind of information, even if we didn't make the project, but we support the publishing of the project, we can be sued. And the same also goes for characters. So when we first started the group, I really got very excited when I saw Mickey Mouse and Star Wars and anything like that in the posts. Where now you won't see it at all. We filter it out. And I'm really sorry that we have to take that kind of content out. But once again, those characters are protected. They're the protected intellectual property of the corporations that have created those characters and that have made them famous. And we as an admin team cannot assume what their terms of use are for those fabrics. And the reading that I've done online says that there are some cases where even if you're remaking something and you're not selling it, it can be a copyright infringement in the minds of the people who created those characters. Very often character linens and fabrics and stuff like that are made under very specific terms. And there are companies that pay fees to be able to use those characters on the linen in order that they can sell it. And if you haven't paid those fees yourself, then they might very well be upset if you've used their characters to make items that you're reselling to get revenue from. And even if you're not reselling, some of them, and as an admin team, we can't assume those terms.
Yeah.
We have no idea. So that's why we've just made a blanket rule. And the other thing we do as an admin team is if we have a guideline that's going to be open to interpretation, sometimes we will just make one blanket guideline. We say none of this. So there can't be any arguments, and that's also because our admin team keeps shifting and changing. It's much easier to give one simple, clear guideline to a new admin team member than to say, okay, it's like this some of the time, but then other times it's not like this. And the other thing that's happened is historically through the course of time, we've lost a lot of admin team members because admin team members disagreed. They got into heated arguments behind the scenes because there were certain things that were open to interpretation. So sometimes those guidelines that might to our members seem like they're a really hard line are not only there for whatever legal reason or to protect the community, they're also there to protect the sustainability of our admin team, because we just can't afford to get into arguments behind the scenes all the time about these gray area interpretations. So when I find anything that's like that, that's causing a rub in the admin team, then I move back to a hard, straight line, a simple guideline. So we say no labels, no copyright protected characters. And that just makes it much smoother running for our admin team behind the scenes. Does that make sense?
It does, and I understand it because I think that when you begin to share ideas and you start sharing some of your graphic content, anything that you have that is intellectual property, you begin to look at it in a different way. It's really, I've asked for permission and been turned down, and so
yes.
I live up to it, even though I don't have anybody coming after me. I'm not doing anything commercial, but at least I honor the person. I've asked, and they've said no, and I understand no. I know what no means.
That's great. I'm so pleased you ask for permission, and I'm so pleased you bring that up as well. People often say to me, how do I know if I can copy this thing or not? And I always say to them, ask the person who created the original work. They're the ones who know the terms in their own minds. Did they intend for it to be shareable, or did they intend that it's protected?
Yeah.
So that's a
Well,
great point.
the other thing is you were talking, I was thinking about, you guys call them triggers.
Yes,
There's certain topics that seem to set off a whole, and everyone is so short on consideration or rope that's left to give nowadays. It just, I've actually slowed down even more, and more than my usual slow approach,
mm,
because so many people are dealing with so many things that um, I like to make sure people have had enough time to give consideration. And so, do we
yes,
still have trigger topics that are new ones coming up? Or I know that masks and certain kinds of products were kind of triggered a whole bunch of reactions
yes.
and clamoring on both sides. Um,
So most of the more common trigger topics we've now got down because we've been at this for about 5 years now. And to make it into the trigger topic list, it's something that recurs. So most of them we've got pinned down. And I have to say, every time I think that we've got all of them, a new one comes up. So, for example, not too long ago, we had somebody use the word redneck, created a whole chain of events, a whole chain of negative commentary that we then had to add the word to the list of trigger topics. So what we do is when it comes up, we address it as a team. We bring it back into the team group chat. We discuss as a team how we should deal with it. And then I actually take some time to make the signage. So I don't think a lot of people realize those thousands of signs that are in our community guidelines I've made on my own time. And very often people come and go, we don't like this sign, you must change the wording. Do you have any idea how much time it takes me to make those signs? And how many times we've audited them before I post them?
I was I was going through a project yesterday, and I started doing the budget items I wanted to remember, because I remembered Colleen's discussion. And I was surprised at the number of things I had just kind of ignored, all of those many things that you use and you don't think
Yes,
about. If I was going to cost the item, I needed to have that noted in
yes,
the notes.
yes,
And yeah,
yes.
it's amazing. It is amazing.
Yeah, it's
Um,
very easy to overlook it when it's in full view.
I was trying to think, there was another topic that had popped into my head as we were talking, and it's managed to escape just as fast as it was there. So, um,
Okay, but maybe on the trigger topics, I can talk about a couple more that were surprising. So when we first started the group, I had no idea that tartan fabric was going to become such a problem for us.
well, it's proprietary. I know that.
Yes, and the trouble is that some tartans are copyright protected and others are not.
My husband's family has a tartan,
Mm, mm,
right? And so I printed it, but then it's for his family. It's for him and his family's use, and so
yes,
uh, I have permission to do that. That's one of those.
yes, yes. Now, being from South Africa, I had no idea. I just thought it was like interesting checked fabric, you know. So when that became a problem in the group, we have had to do a whole lot of research. I've even like written letters to people in Scotland who run websites about tartan to the tartan registry, asking them what I must do.
Yes,
Uh, so
his family is reestablishing a family leader, and so they're the first group that's gone through Scotland and gone through the Lord Lion Court, and they've nominated someone who will be head for 10 years unless
okay,
another survivor comes forward. So yeah, it's a big to do.
yes, yes. So for those of you who are watching who are going, what's the big deal about tartan? Well, tartan is the way some families identify themselves. And
It's a,
yes, it's a label. Yes, it's a label of sorts. And some of them are Burberry, the store, has a tartan that they've actually registered as their own tartan for their business. So that one's very strongly copyright protected. So there again, when we have posts with tartan in and it's unclear, we just remove it. Once again, because our admin team doesn't have the capacity to go and do the research to find out. And also, is it fair to expect our admin team of volunteers to go and do all this extra research when, you know, we've got so much else to do in our lives? We've got families and rent to pay and all the same things as everybody else. So there is a point where we have to say, okay, this is too far, you know. So when we've got to go and do all this research and it becomes too far, then we pull it back and we say, okay, no tartan. So if it's going to look like it's trouble. So I think the guideline around that one at the moment is if it appears that it's being used by the family, for the family, and that is made clear in the wording so that our admin team doesn't have to assume anything, then we'll leave the content up.
Well, I mean, I had it printed up, so I'm making it out of new fabric. It doesn't meet the general guideline of the group as a whole,
Yes,
recycle versus reuse.
yes,
And so I think I would be violating just the first main principle, which is why would someone want to see this if this is stuff I'm printing up? These are fabrics I am making, and I'm
yes,
doing something with them. And so, and
yes,
even scraps from those things, I printed the fabric.
yes,
So, you
yes,
know, it's not. I don't think it meets the first general rule, which is, you know, look what I did with something that that was going to be discarded.
yes,
So.
yes, yes. It's clear you've got a very clear logic chain for when you post. And if I could just ask all of our members to apply that same logic chain when posting. I think also the easiest way to stay out of trouble in the group is to be explicit and to be very clear. So the more information you give the admin team to work with, the better. You know, if it's just a picture and no words, we don't know where the resource came from, what you used to do it with. So if you tell us a story and you add more words, your posts will have a better chance of getting through the selection process. One of the other things is a few months ago we flipped things around a little and we switched on post approval for all posts. And that's really made our lives a lot easier because now as an admin team, we don't have to scroll through everything to find it. Somebody checks it before it goes out. And one of the reasons we've actually left that in place is because at the moment there's some really, really horrible porn going around on Facebook that our admin team is catching. Now, it happens about once a month, but it's really disturbing. Our admin team always, when it's come up, we always offer the girls a virtual hug and tell them to take the rest of the day off and go and have a cup of tea, because what's been seen can't be unseen, you know. So I know some people might feel that the group is very controlled, but we're filtering out all sorts of stuff at the front end to curate the quality, which then makes the rest look easy.
Well, I do appreciate the quality, and the thought that had popped into my head was, I was interested in your word group.
Okay. Okay.
So I was actually in the guidelines this morning looking to see where the word came out of, where the word group was located. So.
Okay. Okay. So that was actually a project that we ran, I think, in year 2
Okay.
or year 3. I wanted to create some visual images that were shareable. My hope was that members would share the images, and it never happened. I had lots of hopes for the project that never manifested. And interestingly enough, our regional and city groups were also born out of that project so what
Yeah.
happened was I suggested the project. I said to and I think we only had 10,000 members at that stage, so it was in the second year. We put out a post on Facebook and we said to the group, would you like to participate in this project? And so many people came back and said, it sounds like such a fabulous idea. I was like, we can stitch your word and you can choose whatever your word is for upcycling and you create that in fiber and cloth. And then you send us an image and then we'll have this wonderful library of shareable images that we can send out into the world to spread our message.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the admin team members, because then we had the discussion, they were going to be stitched into quilts. And one of our admin team members was so excited about it. She was like, how are we going to stitch these quilts together if we're all around the world? We now need regional groups so that we can organize around these regional groups to put these quilts together. So I said to her, you know, Michelle, this sounds like a lot of hard work. I don't have capacity for it right now. But if you create these groups, I'll back them. So of course she she went out and rustled up some more support, and two ladies then put together all these regional and city groups, the regional groups.
Yeah.
Needless to say, they've both left our team since then, and I've been left now to continue with them and figure out what else we can use them for. Because when we then had a deadline for the Words project, I think by the time we reached the first deadline, we had less than 20 contributions. So then we extended the deadline, and then we got about 40 or 50 contributions. And then later, I tried to revive the project again and got another 10 or 15 contributions in. So we've got about 60 odd contributions to that project. Now, I would love to see our members continue to add to that project because I still think it was a great idea.
Where would I be able to see what that list is, or do you guys keep that from an administrative perspective inside?
So, if you look in the photo albums at the
Okay.
Words project, you will see all of the contributions in there, as well as a description how we did it and how you can continue to contribute. And then if you put into the Facebook search bar the Words project, it should come up. It also exists as a group.
Okay.
So I've archived the material both in the photo albums of the main group and in an actual group, so that my hope is at some stage, if we get big enough, or if we have an admin team member join who's passionate about the project and wants to pick it up again, then the work we've previously done is not lost. They'd be able to pick it up there and then and run with it. So that's what I try to do with anything that I do within the systems for the community. I try to make it evergreen. It absolutely kills me to break down anything we've already done.
Mm-hmm.
So what I try to do is, even if a project kind of sparks and then fails, I'll put it in a group or something, that if at a later stage somebody comes along who wants to pick it up and run with it, it's sitting there. The systems are all in place. They just need to grab it and talk about it more. So we've got a couple of...
Yeah, we've got a few minutes, and it interested me because at my earlier point in my life, I was creating posters or bulletin boards that had words, fabric words on them. And
Okay.
I found that a lot of fun, very, very a lot of fun. I was doing it for a church.
Okay.
So it interested me, and I have a project coming up where I'm going to create the title for an album, and the word beautiful will be in the middle there.
Oh,
And so
lovely.
happy to create an image for that and submit that to.
That would be amazing. Yay. So I've got some new submissions for the Words project. That's exciting. Thank you. Thank you.
I also wanted to thank you because I do know that there is there's a beauty and a safety in the group, and I appreciate it, and I know that it comes from lots of hard work. I know that you guys are diligent and you're meticulous, and you're kind and you're generous, and the members are great. Appreciate all of the kind stuff that I see floating back and forth, and the the creative process is just incredible. And that doesn't happen just by circumstance. It's not a coinky-dink. It
Yes.
happens because you guys are curating and making sure that you're staying on the center line, that you're staying on what you designed it for. And I appreciate that. I really, really do.
Oh, thank you so much. That means so much to me. Thank you. And I must tell you that your contributions mean the world to me. The fact that every time I do one of these Zoom meetups, you show up is just, it's pure gold for me. Thank you. Because as you were saying earlier, participation really is what it's all about. And you truly embody that. So thank you.
Well, I would remind people that they are taking so much from the group.
Mm,
They really do have they do have a bill they need to pay, and they pay it forward. They don't pay it to the people who've already done things. They pay it to the people who are coming,
mm,
and you do that by participating and by helping out in those ways that you can. I don't think I can be an admin. I don't think I can
mm.
handle that kind of a schedule, but I certainly happy to look at the words group and see if there's something I can contribute to that, because
Oh, that would be
I'm always
amazing.
some little thing off on the side that I can do that helps the overall effort, so that you know I'm
That
not
would be amazing.
part of the stampede, but I am part of the group going forward.
Thank you. And you know, we've got 66,000 members. If 1% of those members would just do one more thing, you know, everything that you see there gets done by 10 or 15 people.
I am a fan of the once the one little thing that made it succeed or fail, because
Yes,
that is how I learn for the next one that I do, the next exercise, because
yes,
it's part of the process of getting better,
yes,
of doing different things, and sometimes it is the smallest thing that allows something to roll forward or pulls back a ton of really bad stuff from
yes,
rolling forward. And
yes,
so I've been pleased that there hadn't been any pornography, but it's one of those things where if you move on different platforms, you learn to expect it, and so I'm happy to hear that you guys are stopping it early.
yes,
But that's
yes,
what's keeping it out of the general stream. So
yes,
I
yes.
appreciate that so very, very much. I really, really do.
Thank you. Thank you. And our team is really supportive. They're really cute. We've got a great bunch of girls in at the moment. We've got a lunch room that we run in the background. So we've got a group where we do all our training. And
Mm-hmm.
then we've got another group for the admin team, which we call our lunch room, where we blow off steam and where we drink tea together and we share cat pictures and dog pictures and just stuff to keep the morale up. And whenever that particularly horrible pornography comes past, then we all head to the lunchroom together and have a sandwich and a cup of tea.
Well, I know that Zoom is going to cut us off here, but
Yes, yes.
it's
Thank
been
you
great.
so much for your time. I appreciate so much your conversation tonight. Thank you, Diana, for adding your beautiful value to our community.
You're welcome, my dear. Take it easy. Stay
Have a
cool.
beautiful day.